2 days ago, my son and I almost died in an auto pedestrian traffic accident. It was a horrible and terrifying near miss, and it never would have happened if the person driving the car had been driving a Tesla. Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. So first of all, obviously I am totally fine. My son is totally fine. Nothing actually happened, but we were within a foot or two of it being a very, very horrible accident and potentially deadly. So what happened? Well, at a general level, we were going biking and we were crossing a 4-lane road to get to a bike path on the other side. There's a parking lot on one side of this very busy road and there's a bike path on the other side. So we were going across. My son was a few feet behind me and my wife was a few feet behind him. And we were walking our bicycles across this street. We had the walk sign. In fact, we had crossed 2 lanes and half of the 3rd lane of traffic. And the walk sign had actually started to change to the countdown timer at like 25 or 26 seconds or something like that. So we had already gone through the entire white walking guy little symbol, and we were more than halfway across the road when a female driver driving what I think is maybe a Volkswagen hatchback, it might have been a Ford hatchback, it was very fast. Anyway, she blew through what had been a red light for a really, really long time at probably about 50 miles an hour. The speed limit is about 40 there, and she was definitely speeding. So she was going really, really fast. My son actually saw her mouth the words, "Oh my God," as she went through because she realized what had happened as she went through. Even worse, there was a car that was actually starting to pull out from a side street because, of course, they had the green light as well. And that person fortunately stopped. So the driver basically was able to thread the needle between me and the car that was pulling out without either one of us getting hit. So not to be too graphic, but let me show you this intersection. It's a very dangerous intersection. You can see that there's a highway loop that goes over the top of it, and then there's traffic that goes both directions. The person driving was heading westbound and I was heading north on the road. And there's an intersection coming out of what's now a racetrack gas station. In the Google images, you can see that it's still a construction area because the pictures are old, but basically there's a gas station there. So there's a lot of traffic that comes out of that side road now, and there's a crosswalk. And actually where the crosswalk is now where the road is. So all this stuff has been reconstructed since Google Maps took their pictures. They need to update, by the way, because that was 6 months ago. But anyway, the person was traveling westbound in the far north lane, and the person coming out of the side street was pulling out into traffic because they had the green light. I had the walk light, of course. Again, like I said, I was 3 out of 4 lanes across the road. The driver, fortunately, was in the 4th or northbound lane. And like I said, she was going approximately 50 miles an hour at a guess. And as I said, we were walking our bicycles across the road, so my bicycle's front tire probably passed within a foot of the edge of her car. So on the good fortune end of things, obviously nothing happened, but if we'd been about 2 or 3 seconds faster going across the road, I at least would have been hit by the car, and my son could have been also. And at that kind of speed, and a bicycle involved in the accident, we could have been pulled under the car, we could have been thrown onto the car. Fortunately, we were wearing bike helmets, but really, honestly, the amount of collision and damage that would have been done probably would have killed me and possibly my son as well if he'd been up with me. So I don't know if you can tell, but I'm still pretty shook up about this whole incident. As you might imagine, it's sort of like watching your life going in front of your eyes, and especially when your child is involved too, it's just an amazingly terrifying thing to have happen. So obviously this was a huge mistake on the driver's part, and also, of course, fortunately the person turning out of the side street was being very aware, because if the person had hit that person coming out of the side street like this, they probably would have ricocheted off and into me as well. So that would have been just about as bad as the situation if they had driven straight into me. So like I said, everything worked out fine. Why did I say at the beginning that if the person was driving a Tesla, this never would have happened? Well, one of the features of Teslas is that they have an awful lot of safety stuff going on in the car automatically, whether you're driving it yourself or not. And one of the things it does is it auto detects red lights. And so more than likely it would have at least flashed a warning, if not tried to stop on its own. And of course, it also would have recognized me as a pedestrian and also the car coming out as an automobile. And that I know because I've had a couple of incidents where, I looked away for just a second and somebody slammed on the brakes and the car just instantly, braked for me, which is great. That's wonderful if it's a car-to-car kind of situation. If it's a car-to-pedestrian situation, it's much, much more critical, right? So obviously I could have passed away and my son could have passed away, or we could have been in the hospital for months, if not years, from this incident. The person driving the car, of course, course, would also have been financially ruined, and her parents potentially also, because she was obviously a college student, but also, the emotional aspect of that too. So I'm not belittling the fact that a person's guilt and everything involved with being involved in a collision and causing someone grievous bodily injury or death would cause that person emotional harm as well. So everyone touts the safety features of Tesla cars, right? They talk about them getting involved in collisions and rolling over and all of those other things, but I don't think people really talk highly enough about all of the active safety features that are in the car itself, which not only protect you as the driver, but they also protect you as a human being from being involved in a grievous bodily injury situation like this, right? So if that person had been driving a Tesla like Model 3 or something like that, as opposed to the Volkswagen or whatever it was, the car probably would have at least warned her about the red light coming up. It might have actually stopped the car on its own. I don't know that for a fact, but I do know for a fact that seeing the car coming out of the cross traffic lane and also seeing us in traffic, the car would have slammed on its brakes. And if it had hit us at that point, right, maybe it slammed on the brakes a little bit too late, it still would have been a much, much lower speed collision and probably everything would have been okay. I mean, maybe injuries, again, maybe not. The car can stop very, very rapidly. So again, knowing it would have seen a red light coming up and it probably would have been actively trying to stop already. And then for sure seeing us in the road and seeing pedestrians. I've seen that happen too, like where the car has braked a little bit, even as I'm driving like past a person, right? So they're walking on the road and I'm driving past and the car will actually start to slow down a good distance away from where that pedestrian is. So again, I think, having the car see us as coming across that and seeing the other car, even if the red light had not been involved, it certainly would have slammed on the brakes and it probably would have stopped completely. If not, it would have been a very low speed collision that would have hit us. So all of this is to say, as I think about driving my Tesla Model Y, it makes me very happy to know that if I ever was inattentive or something, and we're human beings, it can happen. If I was ever inattentive in a situation like that, that the car would take over and it would stop for me and it would make things okay. And as a person, right, as a parent, it would make me, I can't even imagine how devastated I would be if I was the driver in that situation. Obviously, if I was the person being hit, I probably wouldn't even know that it happened because I would be a goner immediately. But being the person who was the person who hit somebody else and being at fault would generate such an amount of guilt that I can't even imagine living with that the rest of your life. So again, I know Teslas are very, very expensive automobiles, but really what kind of price can you put on that sort of a thing, right? It doesn't even matter how much it costs because the amount of liability, but also the amount of emotional and psychological trauma that it would cause to be involved in an accident like that, as well as physical trauma on the receiving end, just makes it so that it's basically priceless not to be able to be involved in a situation like that. So I'm obviously not going to keep harping on this in future video episodes, and I was actually kind of wary about even talking about it. I don't want anyone to feel like I'm being exploitative here, but I did want to talk about this because I think it's important to understand that safety features are not just for the people inside the car, but safety features are also for those around you, other cars, and especially other pedestrians, people who have, you don't have a metal cage around you, you have nothing to protect you, and you could be grievously injured or die in a collision. So all of this makes me wonder just how fast we can all be driving Teslas on the road. I hope it's as fast as possible. I know that they are building these things as quickly as they can, but Elon and Tesla, the faster you can make these cars and get them on the road and make everyone safer, the better. Thank you so much. All right, thank you for watching what I'm assuming is kind of a downer of an episode. It's not, because again, everything's fine, but you can tell the emotional issues that are still going on with all of this. So I guess even considering that nothing happened, there's still a lot of emotional trauma involved with this whole situation. And obviously it could have been far, far, far worse. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.